I've just got a funny feeling that Trump is going to deliver a showstopper for the grand finale of the Davos meeting.
What do you get when you combine SD bullion and the New Zealand Mint? You get the lowest price silver coin ever released to the world. Introducing the Roaring Lion, a 1 ounce, 4 nines fine silver coin with micro engraving security that retails for lower than some of our competitors sell silver bullion rounds for. Check out this magnificent beast, the Roaring Lion silver coin, at sdbullion.com/roaring. That's sdbullion.com/roaring. All right, all right, all right.
Hey everyone, this is Elijah Johnson with silverdoctors.com, and back with us today is Rob Kirby from Kirby Analytics. Rob, thank you so much for joining us today.
Pleasure to be with you again, Elijah, and Happy New Year.
Definitely. Happy New Year to you as well. And I'd like to get your take first on the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency markets, because recently we've seen a major pullback, if not crash, if you want to call it that. Bitcoin is down about 50% from its all-time high. What do you make of this?
Well, I mean, I've certainly observed that Bitcoin has received a bloody nose, but I would only hearken back to the 2011-12 timeframe when Bitcoin traveled to roughly $1,200 and then came back to 100. So it had lost more than 50% of its value on an earlier occasion. And these cryptocurrencies are subject to dramatic and sudden moves. I mean, we saw Bitcoin go from, I think, 12,000 to 19,000 in the space of 3 or 4 days. And the notion that it's been bloodied and beaten from 19,000 down to a 9,000 handle at one point, I don't find completely shocking. But I would say this: cryptos are not going away. And I believe our universe, our financial universe, will continue to be increasingly cryptoized on a go-forward basis. So I don't want people to misinterpret what I'm saying as an endorsement of Bitcoin, because to me, whether it's Bitcoin, Litecoin, or something else coin, the crypto world is here to stay, and the crypto world will be growing and burgeoning in the months and years going forward. So whether Bitcoin ends up being a winner, like whether Bitcoin is a Nortel or a Napster in the future, I can't really say. But what I will say is there will be Amazons of the crypto world and Apples of the crypto world going forward. Whether it's Bitcoin that morphs into the dominant player, or whether it's something else, I really can't say. But cryptography, you see, what cryptography brings to the party, Elijah, from my standpoint, is it brings honesty and transparency to price discovery. And to me, I view that as a return to a mean, if you want to put it in mathematical terms, in that it's sort of, if we think in terms of pendulum movements, we've got the pendulum swung way, way, way out in favor of dishonest commerce right now. And by applying cryptography to physical assets, I believe that the pendulum will swing back towards, a center, or possibly even swing the other way, where we have honesty and honest commerce, as opposed to this pure fiat garbage that the world's been, I'm going to say, blighted with for the past 40 plus years. So that's where I think we're headed.
Definitely. And I know I've heard a lot about Bitcoin taking up a lot of energy, mining Bitcoin and securing the transactions and how that all works. It takes up a lot of energy. Do you think that could be something that could hold back Bitcoin in the future from really developing, and maybe something else could replace Bitcoin, or something else could reform the financial system and it wouldn't be Bitcoin?
Well, I think you're on the right trail, because I'm not necessarily married to the notion that Bitcoin will be the prominent thing necessarily on a go forward basis. There may be developments in the crypto world where different iterations of Bitcoin, or maybe one of the forks of Bitcoin becomes the more prominent player by virtue of it being more efficient on the energy side. But in my view, conceptually, my understanding of the mining process, the mining process is I think something that is very important to let's just say an efficient and viable crypto entity, is that it should be able to be mined. And I think this is a vital feature of something in the crypto space if it's going to be viable on a go forward basis. But could we have something more efficient than Bitcoin as we know it today? I would say very likely, and why not?
Definitely. I think one of the things about Bitcoin and blockchain, and I've also heard this new thing called hash graph that is supposedly like more secure and even magnitudes faster than Bitcoin and blockchain. The thing about these technologies is that you can't really control them a lot, and they pose a threat possibly to the central banking monopoly of currency. What is your perspective on that?
Well, the reason they can't be controlled is they're decentralized, and the notion that they're decentralized is very frustrating to the powers that be and to the central banking community, because our current fiat monetary system is centralized. And from that standpoint, I'm going to defer really to the words of Cliff High, who I view as somewhat of an expert in this area. And Cliff just says there's no way that the monetary elites can control a decentralized system like Bitcoin, because he claims that if they could, they already would have. And the fact that they haven't, he says that they cannot do it. And I also would note that Cliff's words relating to hash graph, which you just mentioned, while it possibly presents some efficiencies on the energy saving front, I believe Cliff made the comment that it's got some very restrictive issues with regards to it being mineable. And I think that's probably something that would keep it from advancing to very, very widespread adoption, the fact that it isn't mineable. So just my 2 cents worth on that, based on my following the words of Cliff High, who I think is somewhat of a savant in this area.
Now, mentioning about Bitcoin and blockchain being a possible threat to the elite, I know we've also talked on this show about Trump being a threat to globalism and the elite, and we just saw the 1 year anniversary of his inauguration, and I know we were also going to discuss his appearance at the Davos conference soon. Before we get into that, I was wanting your perspective on, his first year in office. Do you think he's actually taken steps against globalism and towards a more nationalist policies?
Oh, absolutely. Trump is a thorn in the side of the globalist entity. I think it's noteworthy that Trump celebrated the first anniversary of his inauguration. He celebrated with his proclamation of the fake news awards, where I believe he named the New York Times as the flag bearer of fake news, and he had other media outlets where he sort of did his take on the fake news awards. Sort of, at least in my view, it didn't go unnoticed that we're in award season. We've recently just had the Golden Globes, and soon to be announced will be and I think the nominations are coming out now for the Academy Awards. So Trump sort of trolling the globalists. Of course, he had his own rendition of awards with the fake news awards, and I find it extremely peculiar, frankly, that Trump is going to be making an appearance in the globalist den at Davos in Switzerland, and I noticed that he's the last scheduled speaker on Friday afternoon, which is typically at these Davos meetings is supposed to be a very quiet time. And I've just got a funny feeling that Trump is going to deliver a showstopper for the grand finale of the Davos meeting. And I've just been thinking to myself over the past few days, Elijah, wouldn't it be something if Trump were to make an appearance on stage on Friday afternoon at the close of the Davos meeting, if he were to walk out with possibly Julian Assange at his side? And I just can't think of a more fitting and better way for Trump to rub the globalists' nose in their own fake news and their own sense of like their own false reality. And wouldn't it be something if Trump walked out with Julian Assange, and if he walked to the mic and said, everybody, I'd like to introduce you to Julian Assange, and I think I've got something in my back pocket, and it feels like it could be a pardon. And I view Trump as a person and as a brand. This man is a showman. He's a businessman and he's a showman. And I believe that he's trying to manage America like a business. But I don't think he'll ever lose the showman aspect of his that's ingrained in his very nature. And I've just got a sneaking suspicion that this could be what's in store for us at the end of this week. Because to be honest with you, I can't really figure out any other reason why Trump would want to even be seen at Davos. So anyway, just a thought. And wouldn't it be interesting if that's what's afoot?
Definitely. It does seem strange that he's even showing up, considering all his anti-globalist policies.
Yeah, no, I mean, to me, it just doesn't fit. But I mean, if he had a real showstopper in mind, or had planned a real show-stopping event, it would really be a way to me, that would be the ultimate slap in the face to the globalists. So that's just what I think.
All right. Now, moving on here, the last topic I wanted to discuss is the precious metal markets. Now, since the beginning of the year, gold is up a bit, but silver is pretty much flat. What do you make of, we saw a run up just recently in precious metals, from like mid-December to mid-January, but now it seems like they're going back down or, staying flat. What is your perspective?
Well, my perspective on precious metals is that they're still critically suppressed in price, and the suppression emanates and stems from either the COMEX in New York or the LBMA, the London Bullion Market Association, based in London, England. And on these exchanges, we see paper contracts being dumped on the market at critical times where many more tons of paper metal are sold on futures markets than physical metal exists to back the selling. And to be honest with you, given the amount of paper contracts that have been sold, I'm actually very surprised that the nominal prices reported on COMEX have held up as well as they have, because we've literally seen unprecedented paper selling of precious metals. And what we've seen recently and increasingly, we've seen COMEX when it comes to delivery time, they're shunting their requests for physical metal off to the London Exchange in what are called EFPs, exchange for physical, where they're basically offloading their non-performance onto a different market. You see, people need to understand that the COMEX and the LBMA, these are private clubs that are set up by officialdom or the powers that be, and these people make their own rules and have the ability to change their own rules in the middle of the game to suit their own ends. And throughout the history of the trading of paper metals on futures exchange, we've seen the rules change at different times when people have become too bullish of precious metals and have famously or infamously the Hunt brothers with silver back in 1980, when they had basically and effectively cornered the world market in silver. The people at the COMEX changed the rules and instituted a new rule that said that the Hunt brothers were not allowed to buy contracts anymore. They were only allowed to liquidate. Now, that worked back in 1980 to keep the price of silver from going up dramatically from, I think the high in 1980 was roughly $50 in American dollars for the high watermark for silver in 1980. And had the rules not been changed, it's very likely the price of silver would have gone a lot higher than $50 in 1980. But once they instituted a rule that said that the Hunt brothers could only liquidate, of course, the price of silver crashed. The institution of such a rule today, in my view anyway, is a dog that won't hunt, because while the Anglo-American banking powers might wish to do such a thing, there are foreign players with enough clout in the market today that would not tolerate such an action, such an overt action by the powers that be in the Anglo-American banking sphere today. So let's just say with the increase in open interest for paper futures dealing in precious metals reaching crescendo levels, I think we're building to some sort of a climactic event in the metal space, and it wouldn't shock me at all if this year is the year that finally we see a resolution between or an all-out war between the serial shorting of paper contracts versus physical availability. And it's for years been my view, and it's a view that's shared by the Gold Antitrust Action Committee, or GATA, that ultimately price suppression of precious metals would end when physical demand trumped the ability of the paper shorts to rule the day, because it has always been a fact that while it's very clear and well documented that the nominal price of metals has been held in check through unmitigated selling of paper contracts, as they short the paper contracts, they do have to cough up some physical metal to make their false price appear believable. And I think this is the year when we might actually hit the wall where there isn't enough physical supply to make the appearance of price being as being illustrated by this paper selling. I think we could reach the point this year where people just say no, there's no physical metal to be had anywhere, and these exchanges might very well be basically put on a pedestal as the models of failure, of failed policy, failed monetary policy, and the failure of central planning to dictate price. So I think we could be in for a very, very interesting year, Elijah.
Definitely. Well, Rob Kirby, thank you so much for joining us today. Before we let you go, did you want to share with the viewers any last thoughts you had and where they can find you online?
Well, you can find me online at kirbyanalytics.com, and my broken record recommendation is, if you don't own some physical metal, you might want to think about getting some, and you might want to think about owning some preparedness items, storable food, and a means to protect it all. Not a bad idea either.
All right. Once again, Rob Kirby, thank you so much for your time.
Been my pleasure.